Skipster is the guest management platform used by top event teams for everything from guest lists to seating charts and online invitations. If you're looking for next-generation event software that helps deliver perfect guest experiences, head over to Skipster's website. It's Skipster, ZKIPSTER.com to try a free event.
Are you a follower?
9, 8,
Okay, so we're gonna be
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Editor-in-Chief Beth Kormanik.
Hi, David.
Hey, Beth, here we are, another edition of GatherGeeks.
Our guest is David Avrin, a professional speaker on the subject of business marketing. And in this conversation, he's going to talk about the customer experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. He has literally written the book on this topic, the recently released Why Customers Leave and How to Bring Them Back. David, we both go to a lot of events, but looking at conferences specifically, for you, what's that key sign that the organizers thought about customer experience, or the opposite? When do you know they did not give it enough thought?
You know right away when you enter. If you see long lines at registration, it is a dead giveaway that there is probably an issue, depending on how long the lines are. So, to me, that's sort of the first sign. What about you, Beth?
That's a good one. I think I guess there are two ways to look at lines, because on the one hand, if nobody's at checking in, you're like, oh, am I the only one that's going to this event? But no, I agree. You don't want to be waiting in long lines. That's the worst. From the start, I guess signage. Can I get to where I'm going? And did they prepare me to know where I need to go? Not every venue is easy to get into. And so have they taken care of me beforehand and given me what I need to know? So those are the early signs, I'd say.
Those are the early indications of whether you're going to have a good time. Also, if you get the transportation, getting there is sometimes a sign as well. If they screw up on the transportation, or there are buses to get there, or it's just not well directions. I mean, what you're saying about the directional signage is as good as everything else too.
Mm-hmm. So Avrin's lessons can be applied to any industry, but he's going to apply them to meetings specifically. He's going to get into best practices for dealing with unhappy attendees, motivating customers to come back every year, and his predictions for what we're all going to be looking for in speakers. Let's listen.
So, David, we're here at MPI in Toronto. This is a fantastic annual event that they have to show 2,500 people who are in the meeting and event world what's happening next.
It's our people, isn't it?
It's our people.
It is our people.
You are a speaker. You're an expert in this industry. You have a live laboratory because you speak how many times a year?
Oh, I speak anywhere from 50 to 70 times a year in multiple countries across North America, and I'm privileged to do so.
And what is the topic that resonates the most when you speak around the world?
You know what? The last few years, I've been really focusing on customer experience as a meaningful competitive advantage. I think we're in a time across a variety of industries where there's so much quality, there's so many choices. I think it's almost mind-numbing at times, that I think our real opportunity for creating real competitive advantage by crafting and envisioning and delivering a superior experience.
Okay, so everybody is talking about experience.
Sure.
What do you mean by that? And when as a speaker, the one great thing is that you know what resonates with people because you see it in their faces.
Right. Because we're getting direct feedback. I think it's different if somebody's on TV and then you're wondering, but no, I've got audiences. But what's interesting is, and whether it's our industry, whether it's the vendors and the partners and the suppliers and everything within the meetings industry as well, I think that the difference is, and first let's talk about difference between customer experience and customer service. I think a lot of people have done customer service for decades. I think we get that. I think the service with a smile, I think not everybody does it well, but I think we all understand it. The problem is a lot of the customer service people are now customer experience experts, and the marketing people became branding experts. But it really is a different discipline. And a customer experience means, how are we experiencing doing business with you at every point of contact, along that customer's journey, along that client's journey? And the best example is, so I've spoken for a lot of CEO organizations over the years, and invariably there's somebody in banking and finance, and they would always say for decades, their competitive advantage was this, as I motioned to my eyes, right?
We're saying this on radio. You're doing that
that's why I described it. But we know our customers by name, right? Our high net worth individuals, we know them by name. Well, what happens when your primary bank branch becomes your cell phone? That perceived competitive advantage is gone, because I don't have interaction with the real person. I'm not looking for a wonderful wow experience with a person. I want ease of use. I want predictability. I want to be able to buy with one click. I want it to use my face. If I put in my username and password and I get one of them wrong, I don't want to have to put my username in again, right? Hashtag first world problems. But the reality is the experience is, how do we do business? How do we experience doing business at every point of contact? And is it easy? Is it fast? Is it intuitive? Is it frustrating? Are you the easiest person, easiest organization to do business with? That's the experience. And so a lot of people talk about these wow moments, and we're trying to create. I'm not a big fan of wow moments. I mean, they're great if they happen. I can't celebrate that you had a wow moment. But as an organization, if we can make a commitment that we're going to be the easiest company to do business with at every point of contact, and our policies and procedures are going to make life great for them and not easy for our staff, I think you got a real chance.
We're talking to an audience of event organizers.
Sure.
So when you talk about a customer experience, when you attend an event, you're the guest. Is the guest experience and the customer experience the same thing at that point? Are we talking the same language?
But we can be, but I'm looking at it from two perspectives. One is for the meeting planner or the salesperson within a hotel meetings department. They're looking for customers themselves, right? So they have to provide a great experience to build their business. Now, of course, we also provide those great experiences for our customers. So it happens both ways. But part of that is ease of use. I mean, you can tell somebody how important their call is to you, and then you put them on hold for 45 minutes with flute music. Well, guess what? Apparently my call isn't very important to you. So as we look at the guest experience, once again, we look at every point of contact. Are they getting what they want? Are there places for them to sit? Is it easy for them? I mean, I know how much everybody wants us to use the app. They want to use the app. But is there a printed version as well? Are you creating friction? I'll give you a really interesting example, because I went to a session yesterday here at MPIWC on accessibility and accommodation and all of that as well. And they were talking about language, for example. So I was just recently in Bogota, Colombia. I was there for multiple days. Several of us spoke English, and they were wonderful because they provided real-time translation for their guests. However, there was nothing for us. So I was there for 3 days and everything was in a different language.
And you couldn't understand.
And I couldn't understand anything. So I was at a customer experience conference. I was really excited to be able to go and learn from my colleagues, except I couldn't understand anything. They could understand me because we had translation, but not for us.
Did they just not think about giving it to the speakers?
They didn't think about it. I think in almost every case where we are annoying or frustrating our customers or clients or prospects, it's inadvertent. There's a reason why we have that policy, and it's for some other reason, and there is unintended consequence. I'll give you the best example. And for those listening right now, this is going to resonate with far too many of you. You ever go to a website and you're trying to reach a company, you're trying to reach somebody because you have a question, you have a concern, right? And you can't find a phone number anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But they have a contact form. And everybody, I ask audiences, they smile, they nod. And I said, you do realize that the company made a conscious effort that we are not going to let our customers call us. We're going to give them FAQs. We're going to give them contact forms, which is evil. The contact form is the answering machine of the internet.
Yep.
For those listening, if the contact form is your primary way of getting a hold of you,
I'm with you.
You are losing more customers than are driven away by your worst employee. And I'll tell you why. Because I understand the rationale behind it. The rationale is, listen, if we can get them to fill out the form, right, we can capture their information.
Right.
Oh, maybe we can even ask some pre-qualifying questions. Now we know when their event. Here's the problem. We don't want to fill out the form. Right? We're frustrated. We want to reach somebody right now. We don't want to fill it because we don't know who's going to get it. We don't know if we're going to get somebody. We just go to somebody else, right? You have no idea how many customers you've
David
lost.
Avrin rule number one?
No, rule number one is do not make it difficult to get in touch with you.
Yes.
It boggles my mind how much money we spend being good at what we do, marketing our services, and then we make it difficult. I'm a speaker. I speak for a living. I speak on marketing, customer experience. And so many of my speaker colleagues, it's stunning to me, they have contact forms. What they don't realize is before they've even had a chance to respond, I got the gig, I have the contract, I have the deposit in hand, and I've already booked my flight. And they've responded the next day. Well, you know what? I understand my colleagues, my meeting planner colleagues, they want an answer now. If they find what they're looking for, they stop looking. We are 24/7 because I have clients all around the world. And people say, well, don't you have life balance? Are you answering the phone? Of course I'm answering the phone at 2 a.m. If I got a client in Singapore, I got to support my kids. I got kids in college. My employees, my staff is on commission. They're going to answer the phone. But somebody, some SEO person, some web person convinced them to do a contact form. Now, to be clear, it's okay to have a form as long as it's not the only way to get hold of you.
Oh yeah, no, I completely go to.
Right.
I am 100% there. The minute I
have cell phone numbers, everything.
I think it's ridiculous. And
crazy.
And from a customer experience point of view. Now, the other thing at events, though, up until recently, customer service kind of sucks at events because you can't reach people. But now with these chatbots and things like that, you're able to answer questions and have your answers from technology, which kind of does work. Because sometimes what they do is they put humans behind it if they can.
If they can. And that's the important part. Because it's kind of interesting. As I travel around the world, organizations see customer experience differently. When I was just in Colombia, they see customer experience as AI, as chatbots. How do we make it very efficient? All the vendors where people sold like headsets and cubicles because they do business processing and outsourcing. But my message is don't forget the human element. Yeah, chatbots are great, but give people an option. Like even the ones, like if we're going to be on hold, we can handle that if we get, or if we get a message that says, we're very busy time to call right now. Please hold on. You are number 7. Told your estimated wait time is 6 minutes. You know what? I can live with that.
Yeah, no, I do.
But if I have no idea, then I'm frustrated. And once again, companies spend a fortune attracting customers, trying to create great conversations, and then they frustrate them because they're hard to get a hold of.
Okay, so what's your next frustration on the customer experience that you see, obviously, that other people don't?
I think the other one that, once again, I think that they don't see. And let me sort of give you, my new book is called Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. And at the end of every chapter, I have 3 little sections. Why you do it. So I let them off the hook. I understand why we hate it. And then I give them a better approach. So the other one I think that we get a lot is creating policies and procedures to make life easier for your team, but they inadvertently make life frustrating for your customers. When you have, here's a basic example that everybody can identify with. So a young woman and her friends go to a restaurant and she wants to order a Caesar salad and there's a chicken Caesar, but she notices that some other item has shrimp and she asks the waiter or waitress, says, can I substitute shrimp for chicken? Oh, sorry, we don't do substitutions. Well, why? You know why? Because the cook doesn't want to. You know what I care about? I don't care about what the cook wants to do. I care about my customers. My God, give her shrimp. Charge her a few extra bucks. What's the alternative? Not giving them what they want? There's this level of inflexibility. We create policies because we want predictability, right? It's that franchise model. Predictability of customer path, purchasing, revenue, profits, right?
So bring that back to meetings and events. What happens at these? I guess there's...
Sure. I'll give you an example. I'll give you like a hotel example. Here's one part of the whole continuum for meetings and events. 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm leaving. I'm going to speak for a group. I get done at noon. I stop at the front desk. I said, I need to do a late checkout. Oh, sorry, we're not doing late checkouts today. I said, I appreciate that, but I don't even get off stage till noon, but I'm real close. I can be out by 12:30. Yeah, we've got a convention coming in and we need the room, so we're not doing late checkouts. I said, yeah, but I literally can't get here before noon. She said, I'm sorry, if you can't be out by noon, we're going to have to charge you for a second day. Now, understand, I teach this. So I calmly look at her. I said, okay, so if you're going to charge me for a second day, I'm just not going to check out of the room. If I paid for it, I legally can keep it. Now, you don't have a room at all for your convention goer. Is that the outcome you were looking for? And she's like, goes in the back room. 1 o'clock would be fine. Yeah, I think so. I think here's the reality. Sometimes, even in the meetings industry, we fall back on, listen, if we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody. And my contention is you don't. That's a cop-out. The reality is you only have to do it for the people who ask. If you can, accommodate when you can, because most people won't ask for it. I know some of the biggest frustration in the meetings industry right now is everybody has a menu. So everybody's got an allergy. They're gluten-free. They're dolphin safe. They are whatever else. And I know how frustrating that is. If you make those available, put somebody on it. It's the alternative, because here's the challenge. And Dave, this is the biggest challenge in the business today. This is what's changed. We all grew up in business with basic guest relations philosophy. In the meetings industry, this holds true in such a major way. Basic guest relations philosophy says the average person with a positive experience will tell 2 or 3 people, but somebody negative experience will tell 10. Here's the point. None of that is true anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now we tell thousands.
Oh, yeah, you amplify.
We tell millions.
Yeah.
So that one unhappy person, and I guarantee you people are more demanding than they ever have been. They're more impatient. We get that. But the reality is they have a voice that they've never had. It's scary for our industry. One unhappy person who is not accommodated, and I know this frustrates at wedding planners, meeting planners, others as well. There's a real danger. And the danger is they go online and they rant and they feel it's not only their right, but their responsibility to trash you, to put reviews on Yelp and TripAdvisor and Rotten Tomatoes and Glassdoor, and I'm going to make them pay. It is a scary time to be in business.
And so what happens, what should be the response of the person who's the victim of this, or maybe they're not the victim because they caused the problem.
Right.
But what is the response? How do you defend?
Well, first of all, we need to get upstream as an industry. We have to have hard conversations. If we want to complain and bitch about it behind the scenes, then do it behind the scenes. Talk to your staff. Listen, we get it. I complain enough about people wanting me to send the slides 6 months before. I don't have my slides.
I never do that.
I know,
either.
they always ask for it. But the reality is, yes, people are more demanding. And my response is, so you need to be ready for it. You need to accommodate it. There's very few things that we haven't, as a meetings industry, this is important because there are so many different scenarios, AV, food, right? Other disabled or differently able, all the different things, all the sensitivities that we have to have today. The reality is, yes, we have to be, but we know what most of those complaints or concerns or requests are going to be. We need to have conversations among our meeting planner staff. How are we going to handle those? Who's the point person? How are we going to accommodate? The time to do it is not on site. The time to do it is not. So the answer is to get as far upstream as possible to anticipate them. We need to have more people available. We have to have more cell phone numbers. It is going to cost us more in terms of additional staff, but not being accessible when there is a challenge.
So what
makes
happens?
People crazy.
What happens though? There's a complaint online on Yelp or whatever.
Sure.
Do you respond? Do you actually say, "Hey,
I think
we screwed up"?
I think you have to.
Yeah. So are people not doing that though?
They're not doing it. But here's the problem: is they're what Dr. Phil calls right fighters. Like I am right. I am not going to apologize. I know darn well they were. You know what? My God. He would always say, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be effective?" And so it's so hard because I'm one of those people that fight or flight. I'm the fight guy, but you have to take a breath and you have to eat some crow. And even if somebody's unreasonable, you have to, because literally one person can ruin your event. And there's not a person listening that hasn't been in those scenarios. You need to disarm them diffuse is what the word I'm looking for. Diffuse those situations, anticipate them beforehand, have a plan how we're going to do it, who's in charge of it, and accommodate where you can and with a smile.
Right.
You know who's really good at this? Ritz-Carlton. When you ask a question, what's their answer? It would be my pleasure. And even if you do it through gritted teeth, the reality is today, once again, when people have anything negative or they don't feel accommodated, they go online. The reality, it happens to your competitors as well. We're all going to have to figure out how to deal with it. But that's the state of the industry right now is people are more demanding. Okay. They may have more requests. Okay. Be ready for them.
Building a memorable experience for your guest means planning every detail right. Skipster is the guest management platform designed to help you create the perfect experience, from impressive online invitations to seamless check-in at the door. Get started at Skipster, spelled ZKIPSTER.com, for a free test event. Horst, what's the guy's name that used to run? He was the CEO of Ritz-Carlton.
Right. I remember.
And Horst something, he spoke at some of our trade shows.
Right.
He was the killer on customer service, and quality and all that. Are we losing that today? And the management
we
level?
are losing it. And there's an interesting reason why. I think the customer service part, I think we get. But and I'm doing, as I'm promoting the new book, I'm doing a lot of podcasts, and people are asking a question like, why is this getting worse? And it is getting worse, and here's the reason. Because we are so striving for a level of predictability. We are so striving for a level of predictability that we want to plan out our customer path. If we do it this way, and then we look at your quick service restaurant, right? They order here, they customize it here, they pay here. Greater predictability. We can look at here's how we'll be profitable. The problem is what we've left out of this franchise model of predictability of process and outcome and is the flexibility. So we have policies, but we don't have a lot of guidelines. I'm not a big fan of policies. I love guidelines. We spend so much time teaching our people how to quote policies, but we spend very little time teaching our people how to make really good decisions, how to solve problems, how to accommodate somebody, how to be creative. What's easier is just throw up their hands and say, sorry, we don't allow that. Sorry, that's our policy. Oh, no, we can't do that. When the companies that are winning today are finding a way. But even if you have to say no, and in your mind, those who are listening right now, you're probably coming with 1,000 reasons that you have to say no. Even in those situations, offer an alternative. Those are the ones who say, you know what, we're actually not legally able, or we can't, let me tell you what I can do. And they love that. When I check in, because I do a lot of international flights, when I'm landing at 7 o'clock in the morning and I get to my hotel at 9, they don't have a room for me. Well, what if I'm speaking at noon or 1 o'clock? The best hotels say, listen, people haven't even checked out yet. We're not going to do check-in. We can store your bags, but we have a concierge suite. If you want to take a quick shower, if you want to iron your clothes, I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a wonderful experience. It wasn't about how nice they were. They had thought ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so they were accommodating. So the reason it's getting worse, to get back to your question, is we're trying to be predictable because we think if we can get control of it, as I say, shaking, if we can get control of this, then we can eliminate some of the problems. But we can't get control because people are human.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The name of the book is Why Customers Leave. Let's bring it back to and how to win them back.
Yes, so we have to be solution oriented as well here.
Yes, I'm looking at both of this. So let's talk about events.
Sure.
Why won't a person come back next year to your event? And think about it in that. And how do you get them back the year after?
Or
is it done? Are you one and done?
No, you aren't necessarily one and done, but it's difficult. The worst part is getting somebody back is really difficult. That's why you'll see, like in a strip mall, you'll see a sign that says under new management. You know what that means? It means we used to suck.
Yeah.
And so you probably had a bad experience. We're new owners. Please try us again. That's hard. But the reason they don't come back to meetings, and this is huge for people, not only meeting planners and others, but the associations themselves, right? Because they're struggling with membership and all of that, is they have to feel like what they had was worth it. And I know that sounds basic.
Oh, yeah.
That means your speakers have to be great. And this is my own personal crusade. There's such a trend towards not paying speakers. We're gonna give you exposure, right? And you can die of exposure. And what you get is you get a lot of vendors with thinly veiled presentations, and people aren't getting the value. They're spending a lot of money. They're away from their office, the opportunity costs, the cost of the travel, the registration, everything else. The opportunities for them to connect, scheduled time, downtime for them so everything isn't scheduled out. Opportunities, if there's a presentation, it's harder for us, but they like when sessions are repeated because then they don't have to choose. That's one of those great accommodations the meetings industry has done, is not necessarily easy for speakers, but that's okay. Is my session here, I've offered it twice. So the people who weren't able to be here the first day could be here the second day. Or somebody says, oh my God, you got to go see David Avrin, fills up my second session. So literally, like all businesses, it's every point of contact. You have to ask the question as a meeting professional, from registration to on-site to meeting to lodging, everything. And ask the question, is that the way it should be done? Can it be done better or faster or more conveniently or more engaging? People go to meetings because they want to connect. The prognosticators who say meetings are going to go away, it's all going visual, that's crap. We always have to meet. But when we meet, we're going to evaluate as meeting attendees, was that worth the money? Did I make a connection? Was able to meet
connection? I mean, I've been sort of thinking that, yes, the connection, I believe that content is not necessarily king anymore. Contact is king.
Right.
But the thing is, though, I also believe that
that's very tweetable, by the way.
It's very tweetable.
David Adler, contact is king.
Contact is king.
Hashtag
absolutely contact.
Tweet that out.
But the idea is that here's another sort of quotable thing, and that though people come to conferences to build their intellectual capital so that they can spend it when they're drinking from the fire hose. Right. And that is one of the main reasons people come. So it's the combination of the conversations in the hallway, of what they hear on the speakers, what they hear in the, all these different aspects.
Let me give you one other aspect. And I think this is really important because part of when organizations hire me to speak, I always do a preview video to help them drive attendance. Register today. Come to this conference. They come oftentimes because they're afraid of missing out.
Right.
Right. The fear of missing out. Right. FOMO, I think they call it. Right. So if they know that there was something that happened, that's why they love the Michael Cervelli's hot list, right? What's hot, what's new. When you get people to tweet out at your event, this amazing thing, this was a great session. Those who aren't there, you want them to just be sweating, going, I can't believe I missed that.
Right.
So if you can provide, and that's why we talk about creating experiences, but experiences aren't wow moments. The experiences are, I connected with the right people.
Yes.
I learned something that I can immediately apply in my business. Content, context, contact, all of those are key.
Here's the other thing that I've learned, and is that, and my team is sort of constantly bored at me talking about it, but I believe that we're in this era of the parasocial relationship. It's a two-way relationship with a fictional character. And in this case, the fictional character is the event. Like you have, when I watch a TED event or I go to TED, I feel smarter. When I go to Comic-Con, I like it, like going to summer camp. When I come to MPI, it could be my tribe. There's this fictional relationship that you're having that is very intimate. That's what events need, and that the speakers kind of provide a lot of that
feeling that they get to know you. Like we used to imagine boys in sports when you're kids and girls in boy bands.
Right.
They are more familiar with those bands and those sports figures
and their
with
birthdays
their best
and
friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you recreate that with an event? It has an event organizer.
Sure.
Do that. Politics change like that. Donald Trump has a parasocial relationship with millions of people.
Right.
He may be your worst friend, but he's still your friend and you know him better than anyone else.
Right. But I think you do it, and this is what's changed dramatically, because I've been in the meetings industry for 20 years. You do it before, during, and after.
Yeah, it's no longer about
It's not just the event. It is the event, but it's not just the event. It's before, during, and after. How are people connecting on Facebook before? Is there a group or Instagram? Do they know who's there? Keith Ferrazzi wrote a great book called Never Eat Alone. And he has this great thing that he does. I've always loved this. Keith Ferrazzi says, before he goes to any event, he looks at the roster of who's going to be there. He looks at finds 2 or 3 people that he says, I'm going to meet them and get to know them. He has his team, because he has a team, create a 1-page dossier on each of those people, where they went to school, their past book, whatever, and he studies them on the plane. He gets to the event, and he just happens to be, it's lunchtime. Hey, do you mind if I sit here? Right? Oh, hey, I love that paper that you wrote.
Casual as
no, it's very calculated.
Well, yes.
But he's intentional. He says he knows that the value is going to be who he meets.
Yep.
So we make sure he has a plan for who to go. I like those things. When I see organizations, because of course I'm doing conferences every week, and they say, here's what you need to know before you go. Who do you want to connect with? Do we give them opportunities to connect? Are people doing videos to learn about it? Here's what to see. Don't miss this. And then recap afterwards, right? What was your best takeaways? Share it here. What was your 30-day plan? Look at all that. I'm really blessed that when I do these sessions, people tweet out my stuff like crazy. And I know how much it resonated because I see 40 people who liked, my comment that the contact form is the answering machine of the internet, hashtag David Avrin or whatever else.
Right.
So I think we take advantage of all the opportunities to connect.
But the motivation for coming to an event like this or any kind of big event, like when I talk to these brilliant 25-year-olds and 26-year-olds, they say, "Oh my God, I can scale relationships. That I can meet 100 people. Or if I had to have lunch with 100 people, it would take me a year." So they're looking at it purely from a scalability perspective.
It's the one place where everybody's there. Yeah. I mean, look at some of our industries. Like I speak for a living. There are no office buildings full of professional speakers. Once a year we get together for the National Speakers Association, which is the extroverts prom, right? And there's 3,000 people who do what I do, who understand this crazy life and the thrill of speaking on stage for 2,000 people and the lonely Uber ride back to the airport and the cold chicken dinner. I go because this is my tribe. They know my life. I get more hugs than I've ever gotten, and I might see them inadvertently on the road. So,
which is why people go to their own events.
Exactly,
it's like the parasocial relationship.
Well, that's what MPIWC is. But for those you're planning other people's events, understand this is their chance to be with people who get their life.
I think these are the new town squares in many cases. That especially with the demise of media. That we're not standing around the water cooler or we're not watching Walter Cronkite.
Right.
We're at these places where you can connect with people and have the serendipity effect too.
It's interesting. They with the National Speakers Association every year they also have a youth conference that goes on at the same time. So it's all the kids of the speakers. It's a leadership conference. 15 years ago, they would see each other once a year and they go, "Oh my God," and they'd go, "Oh my God, look how tall you are. Oh my God, you look great." And they're hugging you. "What have you been doing? Now they come. They know exactly what everybody's been doing because they follow them all year.
Oh, you're intimate.
My kid goes off to college and my oldest daughter, my youngest, like, "I love you. I'm going to miss you. I'll miss you. I'll text you in 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I'll FaceTime you tonight." Right. There is an opportunity that we need to facilitate as meeting planners, not just encourage them to do so. They already know they can. If we can create those opportunities for them to have those ongoing conversations, maybe we become the venue or the vehicle through our social media, through others, for them to do those virtual town squares throughout the year. Then we become the resource, and we become valuable, and they don't want to miss it.
One thing I know that we're talking about the customer journey and customer experience, but as a speaker, this is a question I always have, and I do a lot of this as well. Sometimes you do a speech, you connect with everybody, and they really don't want to see you again because they have to go to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And how does it make you feel? And then is the goal to try to come back, or you're sort of used merchandise?
Well, I think we don't have ego problems.
Right.
I mean, not a lot of people have
Yeah.
not a lot of people have a job where people clap for them at the end of the day,
exactly.
right? I guarantee the people working on the automotive line in Detroit aren't getting a standing ovation at the end of their thing. So don't feel bad for any of us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of sort of techniques that we use to be in touch. Somebody will say, hey, if you'll text this whatever number, I'll send you my free report. Of course, we're just capturing information.
Right.
Our ongoing conversation, I say, the minute I see somebody stand up and take a picture of one of my slides, that's my cue to say, listen, you're welcome to take a picture of slides, but if you put a business card, I've got books in the back. If you're interested, throw a business card as you leave. I will send you all of these slides. Well, that's my opportunity to capture their information. Then I can keep the conversation going with newsletters, with announcements of things that I do. But even when I sell books, here's the thing I learned a long time ago from our colleague, Larry Winget. He says, listen, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that I sell souvenirs in the back of the room. Half the people that buy my books are never going to read my book. I just tell myself, if you're going to buy, if you're not going to read it, just put it next to good to great on the shelf so I look important.
Yeah.
But keeping that conversation going is really important. I mean, just hear of people who wanted my slides. I probably have 400 business cards. Yeah, and some people say, well, yeah, but there's electronic way. Listen, for us, that's how we do it. It's easy. Yep. I can look at it. I can see their face if they have their face on it. But it is important to keep the conversation going. But even for those who meet people, you don't want it to be like a business networking where we're all exchanging cards. But if you have a meaningful conversation, write a note on the back of that card. How often do we get back from these meetings going, all right, who was that person again? I can't remember. I write notes on the back of them.
You're working it. You know how to work.
But of course, this is my livelihood.
Yeah.
I mean, this feeds my family.
When to end on, I want to talk about for us, 10 years goes by like a snap. It goes by like
absolutely.
I can't believe I'm saying in 2029.
Right.
What are we going to be talking about? What are the trends that will be in 10 years?
You know what?
In your mind,
I know.
You see, it's hard.
So many people. We always have these futurists, at these conferences. And what they used to say is, listen, your children, your grandchildren will grow up in a world of. They don't say that anymore. Now they say by this time next year, right? It's the whole. That was my Jetsons car. But no, I think what we're going to see is there is a trend, but I don't think we're going to see a wholesale, everything is virtual. But what we are going to see, we're going to see really great 3D presentations. I think we're going to access talent around the world. Then we're going to access vendors around the world. I think there's ways of doing it virtually that's not going to be on our phone, that's going to be sitting there in a round table with somebody who's standing in the middle offering.
We're already seeing that technologically is happening.
We're seeing it, but it's going to get so good.
Yeah.
It's going to get so good that it won't be a novelty. It'll just be how it is. I think people will always meet, but they're going to meet fewer times. We're seeing this today. Associations that used to have 3 meetings a year, now they're having 1. Or organizations who share the same audience. I'll give you an example. I spoke for the powder coating something association and also for the paint coating. Well, now they joint hold their meetings because their vendors in their trade show are the same. And they were telling them, we can't afford to go to both shows. So we're seeing consolidation in terms of organizations that share a mutual audience or at least a mutual vendor base. And we're going to see more creative ways. We probably are going to see shorter presentations. I would hope that we would see the pendulum swing back to qualified content providers with fewer and fewer vendors on the stage. And that's not just being self-serving. I think we're hearing it more and more. And I think meeting planners when I watch and you see a quarter of the people leaving halfway through a presentation because a vendor says, oh, hell, I'll speak for free.
That's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's brutal to watch.
But what they've also they've shortchanged their attendees. Yeah. Their attendees want to hear something new. Yeah. I think the traditional motivational speaker is going to, it's going to be harder and harder to justify. Someone who climbed a mountain or survived cancer and all that. May bless their hearts for what they've done. So you mean it's going to be
direct
ROI?
Yeah, because you see some of the things that inspiration can only go so far.
Well, it'll work with celebrities. Celebrities can get away with it.
Right.
Celebrities are a whole different category. Right. If they're a draw, I get that. But they want tangible and different. Tell us something we don't know.
Do you think that hologram presentations, like will you be in a studio in Denver?
I think at some point.
And you'll be able to do...
I don't think it'll be the preponderance, but I think there will be that element. I think they will use that element when it's difficult to get somebody. If you've got somebody in India, somebody in Manila, somebody in Hong Kong, to be able to do it. If you want to be able to do a live conversation with the CEO of a major company, I think Tim Cook, from Apple, will be able to present like that and be able to do a Q&A. Maybe they'll do a roundtable Q&A and he'll be sitting in his office.
So I just had a conversation with a 25-year-old who was talking about how digital relationships and face-to-face relationships are on par. That that's what
No,
they're thinking. I
right.
I don't necessarily agree with
I
that.
don't agree either.
But we're not part of that generation.
Right.
So is that the thinking that is coming up the line?
Yes, but I have to believe that humanity will prevail in that we'll come to recognize more and more the inauthenticity of some of those digital relationships. We see this with teen suicide. We see that with the pressure. I've got 3 of my own. I have 2 stepkids, and they're all between 16 and 24. They know that what's happening on Instagram isn't real. They know that nobody has the perfect lives. So the fact that there is a perception from a 24-year-old that they are on a par, they aren't. There is a huge role for social media and for electronic communication. But there's also a significant deficiency, and that deficiency is we don't communicate. I mean, how often do we get in arguments with people over texting because you can't really interpret?
Right. He's talking about video, facial, face-to-face in terms of digital.
I think it's more
face-to-face.
convenient. I would be so discouraged if I saw it like completely replace.
Oh, I don't think it'll replace it, but it's on par.
I think
Which
I think it's on a par because it's more convenient at times,
absolutely.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no Luddite,
Yeah.
as if people understand. But I think the opportunity to meet is awesome. I think gimmicks will come and go.
Yeah.
And we see
I
a
agree
lot
with
of
that.
we see a lot of gimmicks. I think the gimmicks of it always sounds good to have mimes and celebrity impersonators walking around. But dude, you sort of look like Burt Reynolds. No, I don't want to take a picture of you.
Exactly.
But then there's things that are I mean, how many Burt Reynolds and Marilyn Monroes could we have walking
Oh my
around?
God, yeah,
Bless
I wanna
their
kill
hearts,
myself.
but come on.
Yeah.
But the real ones, which is here's a really creative way for us all to connect or get to know each other, or here's this learning lounge where we can have micro lessons and all of that. To me is awesome.
But I think what you're also getting at, which I'm getting at, is that we're in connoisseur society now, and that quality will rule.
It has to.
That this, I call it, even things like fake luxury, and
Right.
that like the real authentic is going
but
to.
you know who
rise
judges,
to the
Dave?
top.
You know who judges? Our attendees judge.
Yes.
And they will vote with their feet
Yeah.
and their time
and
and their dollars.
That's when they will not come back.
They'll not come back.
And you may not get them to come back.
They saw it, and they saw a lot of gimmicks, and the speakers were okay, and the venue was frustrating because we kept having to walk all this distance. They will vote, and they will vote with their feet, and they won't show up for the next time.
So tell us about the book and tell us how people can get it.
The book is called Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. And it's available everywhere, and it's very conversational. People who read it tell me they're like nodding the whole time, like, "Oh my God, I hate that," or whatever. But it's diagnostic and it's also prescriptive. It's like 23 reasons why people will leave you. Here's why you do it. Here's why we hate it. And here's a better approach. It's on audiobook. You can hear my voice do it. It's on Kindle. And it's what's really exciting. We just heard that it's coming out in Russian and Spanish and Chinese. So it's going to be printed all around the world as well, which is kind of fun. And if you want to get in touch with me, go to visibilityinternational.com. You can see a video of what it is I do. Everywhere online at David Avrin.
Spell that for us.
Avrin. On Instagram, it's the real David Avrin because there's a lot of fake ones. It's a whole other Oprah.
Okay.
We'll talk about that another time. But keep in touch and listen.
Right.
I actually respond to all my own emails unless I'm on an airplane or on stage, but now I get Wi-Fi.
No excuse whatsoever.
Unless you're on United, it's really bad Wi-Fi. But I will respond to everybody personally.
So David, this has been fabulous. Nice to talk to you.
To you as well.
And look forward to doing this again.
All right, friend.
Thanks so much.
Okay, David, we're back in our podcast studio. So the bottom line is people are more demanding. We know this. I mean, we're those demanding people sometimes, and other times we have to meet their needs. They have more requests than ever, and you have to be ready. During the conversation, David, you brought up Horst Schultz, who co-founded the Ritz-Carlton. And he's a legend when it comes to customer service, obviously. You have to work at it, but it isn't rocket science, right? It's common sense, flexibility, the ability to anticipate what people will need.
And kind of taking ownership. The
Right.
idea that this is my house and I want it to look the best, I want it to be the best, and I want to be a great host.
Right. Yeah, you have to ask yourself, how are you going to distinguish yourself in an era when we do so much digitally rather than in person? And so that's a big way. You also said 2 things that resonated with me. It's like when you tweet and you're like this, or, all caps this. So I had 2 this moments, and one was down with the contact form. The contact form is the worst. Let's all do away with the contact form. Give your phone number, give an email address so that we can get in touch with you. And The second was his prediction that the traditional motivational speaker isn't really going to be what people want in the future, that it's going to be about what ROI can that person give because people want something tangible and different. And that resonated with me personally.
Yes.
I think we're all going to be wondering, what am I getting from this speaker?
Yeah, just like a generic motivational speakers they have to be really, really good.
Yes. Yeah. His caveat also was if it's a celebrity, all bets are off. Because there's an inherent interest in that. But, we do a call for speakers for BizBash Live. And when I get these, and I read them, I do read them all. And when I see these generic messages or just how you can, I don't even know. They're just generic, and I can tell that they don't have a specific message for our office. And so those get filed away in the email folder that I never go back to, right?
Absolutely.
Or, for emergencies. And so you really have to think about what that speaker is going to offer your audience.
So Beth, what's going on at BizBash?
Well, if our listeners couldn't make it to BizBash Live, first of all, we missed you. I hope you had FOMO seeing our Instagram posts, our tweets, and social posts from our attendees, exhibitors, and our speakers. It's not the same, but you can get a taste of what happened by going to BizBash Live. We have stories on highlights from the speakers and also what caught our editor's eye on the show floor. So again, those are at bizbash.com.
Great. And before we end, we always like to thank the people that help bring this podcast to life. Claire Hoffman, who is in charge of our editorial duties, Rebecca Pappas, who gets it out to you, who's our VP of Audience Development, and of course, Dave Nelson, our producer. So until next time, what do we say, Beth?
Gather on.
Gather on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on.